So in this video I'm going to break down 3 things that I think Ruben Amorim has to do over the rest of the season. The first is to play some of the young players, and I'm going to specify who in just a minute. The second is to alter the build-up setup, not even really changing the shape, but the specific players that pick up certain positions in certain areas, and you'll see what I mean later on in the video. And the third is to switch Garnacho's position, which may sound controversial, but if you watch the full video you'll see it kind of makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to ignore the whole not making any subs until the 90th minute thing and leaving Højlund and Casemiro on over Obi-Martin and Sekou Kone, and I'll accept that the kids weren't ready for this game, whatever that vague phrase means, but our next 2 games are away at Everton and at home to Ipswich. And I think Sekou Kone, Chido Obi-Martin and Kokonki are all ready for those games. If you say otherwise, that's fine, but you just don't believe in using the youth system. At the start of the season, everyone wants to claim that they want a head coach who believes and trusts in the youth until it's actually time to play them. But we can't play them now, the pressure is too high. No, it's not. The pressure, ironically, is the lowest it's ever been and will be for the foreseeable future. And I mean, just think about it logically. We literally have nothing to play for in the Premier League and have players like Højlund and Casemiro playing who have been putting in subpar performances game after game for about 4 months now. But they need senior game time before they're ready. Yes, exactly, but where are they going to get the game time from then? Like, it's one of the oddest arguments around. Surely we should be giving them game time now when the stakes are low, so that come the summer we can actually assess how good these players are. But forget that they're even young players. Casemiro and Højlund are straight up liabilities in the team right now. Casemiro moves like he's about a stone overweight. For Maddison's goal, Porro almost just walks past him in a defensive third, and now go and watch Sekou Kone for the under-21s. Both in and out of possession, stylistically he's exactly what United need, and everything that Casemiro isn't. 100% Kone's definitely quicker across the ground than Casemiro, both over short and longer distances, which on its own is going to improve us defensively. I mean, you could make the argument that we don't know if Chido Obi-Martin's hold-up game and back-to-goal link play is good enough yet, but I tell you what, we certainly know that Højlund's isn't. And I struggle to see how Chido Obi-Martin's first touch and overall ball control could be any worse than Højlund's at the moment. And what's kind of funny is that with Xerxes on the pitch at the same time, you can see the complete disparity between the 2 players. Xerxes is so good when it comes to dropping off into the space in behind the midfield, with his first time layoffs and ball control, genuinely being as good as anyone else in Europe at the moment when he's on his game. His weakness is his pace and his finishing inside of the box, which to me at least is an even better reason for using Chido Obi-Martin instead of Højlund. That link man between the lines will then allow Chido Obi-Martin to hold a higher position, positionally pinning the centre-backs as deep as possible and creating that space between the lines for Xerxes to move into. I'm also confused as to why Kokonki isn't even in the matchday squad. I mean, surely we should at least be giving him some minutes, given that Martinez is out for most of the year, and apart from him and new signing Aiden Heaven, we don't have any natural left-sided centre-backs. I mean, just watch Kokonki play and you can see that his skill set is everything that United need in that left-sided centre-back role, both in and out of possession. Amorim should be trying to integrate him into the first team as quickly as possible, because if not, come the summer, we're going to have to shell out maybe 20 to 25 million pounds on Alessandro Martinez replacement for the start of next season. But before I go any further, a quick reminder, I do have a Patreon where for $1.50 a month, you can sign up and read some of my articles. I am going to be doing articles on some unusual topics I don't really hear talked about that much. I've got one that I released today on Jose Mourinho during his time at Benfica, and his managerial career and really how he was perceived before his move to Porto. For the $5 a month tier, you can also sign up and get access to my in-game Instagram group chat and get my ebook completely for free when I do release it. So if you do want to sign up, I'll leave my Patreon linked in all the usual places, the eye above, description, comment section, and on the end screen after the video. However, if Kokonki comes in, gets maybe 10 to 15 games under his belt, even if he does make a few errors and has a few poor performances like Euro has, at least we have a litmus test to see how good he actually is. And the same goes with Kone and Chido Obi-Martin. I mean, out of the 3, I don't really know who I'd rather see most. Probably Kone, because in possession we need someone who can drop to the edge of the box in order to receive the ball from Onana. The whole pushing the central centre-back forward to the edge of the box to create a diamond thing is fine if you have a central centre-back who is quick across the ground in order to move quickly to open up passing lanes, and also has the fluidity and press resistance to be able to receive the ball, turn out and play forward, and none of that is Harry Maguire or De Ligt's game. I think Amorim would be much better off dropping Maguire into a wider position to create a back three alongside Onana and the left-sided centre-back, and then have Mazraoui push higher up the pitch, either out wider into a more central position, where he can run into the space behind the midfield, wherefrom you can then have Sekou Kone dropping from midfield towards the edge of the box. The issue is we have Maguire and Casemiro centrally during the build-up phase, with neither being quick enough across the ground over shorter distances to open up passing lanes to enable Onana to split the press. And so Onana is constantly forced out wide, meaning that when Dalot or Dogu receive the ball in the flanks, it's a lot easier for the opposition to cut their passing lanes by squeezing over to that side. We have to start playing through the centre more, and we can't do that if we have the central centre-back, either Maguire or De Ligt, being that player at the top of the diamond on the edge of the box, especially with Casemiro in front of them as well. Amorim can keep the same build-up setup and the shape, as I actually do quite like the diamond shape inside of the box, but he needs to alter the players in those positions, as I think it's pretty clear that whoever plays as a central centre-back, whether it's De Ligt or Maguire, is just not suited to that role. And this brings me on to another player who I think Amorim has to switch roles, and that's Garnacho. I mean, stylistically, I actually think long term, Garnacho may be perfect for that interior forward role in the front three, but right now his pass selection, decisiveness and composure in and around the box and in front of goal is just not at the level that United need, and I think we saw that against Tottenham, not just from the big chance he missed in the first half, where I think in a few years, once he's developed those mental attributes, he either finishes that chance by blasting it near post with his right foot, puts it onto his left and drives the shot hard and low across Vicario, or sells the sliding defender the dummy before opening up a shooting angle to find the far corner with the inside of his right foot. Even in the second half when Xerxes found he's running behind, I actually think this shows why Garnacho has such high potential, because his movement from these type of areas is actually very good for his age, and that's why I say long term, Garnacho needs to be playing centrally on the inside of the fullback, making runs ahead of a forward like Xerxes, who can drop off and create that space, rather than playing on the outside, because he's incredibly dangerous when he's making those darting runs between the fullback and centre back. However, at the moment, his ability to work a shooting angle and composure in these situations is just not there, and so that's why I think his game needs to be simplified. And I said this with Anthony as well, Garnacho should potentially be used as a right wing back from now to the end of the season, because it gives him less options, which initially sounds like a bad thing. Like, why would you want a player to have less options? Well, the problem is that with Garnacho playing from the left of a front three, when he cuts inside onto his right, he has too many options, which only works to exacerbate his poor decision making. Playing him on the right, however, cuts down his options, because more often than not, he's forced to go down the line. On the left, there were so many times when Dogu was making an overlapping run, but Garnacho is just so consumed with getting into shooting positions that he either hesitates too long, waiting for the defender to drop with Dogu's run, or he just completely ignores him. However, at right wing back, he's going to be the player providing those overlapping runs, and so you solve the issue of his inability to pick the right pass straight away, wherefrom when he's released in behind, because he's on his stronger side, he isn't going to have the impulse to cut back inside onto his left, and instead is going to be more inclined to break down the outside and release a shot or a cross across goal or a cut back towards the edge of the box. And then this would allow Amorim to use Dalot as a right-sided centre-back, which is going to massively improve our ball progression in that back three, something we desperately need against deeper defensive blocks, which we will definitely face against Everton and Ipswich. I mean, a right flank with Garnacho ahead of Dalot, to me actually looks quite good on paper, because you've got Garnacho's pace and running in behind, down the outside of the fullback, and Dalot there backing up play behind him, which suits Dalot a lot better than being that wing-back attempting to break down the outside. From here, with Ahmad out, you could then use someone like Jack Fletcher as a right-sided interior forward, picking up spaces in the right-sided half space, and the fact that he's left-footed means that he's also comfortable with playing those angled passes in behind the back line, and actually provides more balance to the system than using three right-footers on the right flank. Xerxes can then be shifted over to the left, improving United's ability to find Dogu's overlapping runs. I just don't see how you can say this setup is worse than with Garnacho on the left and Dalot at right wing back. Obviously, having to play 3 or 4 academy graduates in Jack Fletcher, Chido Obi-Martin, Sekou Kone, and maybe even Kokonki as well is a bit of a risk, but in reality, what have we got to lose? I could maybe understand if we were grinding out performances with Casemiro and Højlund in the side, but not only are we dreadful, but we're not getting the results either. Are we really going to be substantially worse? And the whole "there's too much pressure, they aren't going to be ready" notion, it's just not true at all. There's many examples of young players having come into the first team without really having any senior experience, and I would actually argue that those are the times when we see which young players actually have the potential to be first team regulars, especially in the situation that United are, where the Premier League games are basically a trial period for next season at this point. But considering we could definitely get over £50 million, if not more, for Garnacho in the summer, if he isn't going to be used as a wing back, I just don't see there being any point in keeping him, because it would mean we'd probably have to sign another wing back anyway, and a left-sided interior forward to play ahead of Garnacho, and then we'd have £50 million sitting on the bench, hoping that he reaches his potential sometime soon. It just makes zero sense once you consider United's PSR situation. The only way I can see it being worth keeping Garnacho for next season is if Amorim can mould him into a player who can play at wing back both on the right and on the left. Now don't get me wrong, I don't think he's ideal for the wing-back position, as ideally I think we need someone who's more of a right-footed version of Ahmad, who can thread those passes in behind the midfield and in behind the back line from the left side when receiving the ball out wide, or at least someone who specialises in 1v1 situations higher up in the final third. However, if you think of someone like Victor Moses back in 16-17, he thrived in that right wing-back role because Conte simplified his game, whilst also taking the goal-scoring burden off of him that he would have had playing as a left-sided attacker, and it's the same with Garnacho, but this is why Amorim needs to start taking more risks and trying to mould players into certain roles, because Garnacho is going to need time to adapt to that wing-back role, both offensively and especially defensively, and what perfect time to do it than right now, when we are basically losing practically every other game, and we have nothing to play for in the Premier League. Going into the summer, if Garnacho can competently play as either a right or a left wing-back, whilst also still being able to be used either side in the front three as an interior forward, then I could understand keeping him, because you'd save money on another wing-back like Quenda, and that would allow you to sign a more clinical finisher like Cunha to play in the front three. But there's absolutely no way we can afford to keep Garnacho, sign someone like Giovanni Quenda, whilst also bringing in a left-sided attacker to the level we need as well.